Hello, beautiful, abundant soul. Welcome back to the Abundance Club. I want to ask you something. I want to go straight into this episode. I am hoping it's going to be short and succinct. I'm hoping that I can capture the essence of what I feel really called to share in this episode in a somewhat succinct way. So let's see how we go. And I want to ask you to begin with, invite you to contemplate. Are you someone who looks for the signs? Are you someone that is available to the signs, that maybe asks for the signs? And I'm talking about the signs and the information and the guidance that comes from the unseen realm, from behind the veil, from the world of spirit. If you know me and my work, you know I'm a certified angel medium, and I have deeply felt connected to my guidance team and also to the guidance and the wisdom that comes through my soul for a really long time. And part of the work that I do is supporting people to tap back into their own inherent guidance system. And it's interesting because we have been brought up in a time where that has been deprioritized. And the fact of the matter is, this era that we're in right now, we have access to more information, more intelligence, more external voices literally at our fingertips than we ever have before. We are in this technological age, and like it or loathe it, this is what we're living in. And I even think about my children, and like the information is so accessible. The way that I feel about this is that it has its purpose, but first and foremost, what is so important above the intellect, the artificial intellect that we now have access to, which can be very, very convenient. There is a deeper underlying calling here that it's really important we don't forget. Because in a time when we can have access to more information than we would have ever dreamed possible at the touch of a finger, I believe that many of us still feel really off compass. Many of us feel lost and confused and are in a space of wondering and questioning and doubting. And I think that's because no matter how much noise there is, and often when there is more noise, the more disconnected we can feel. And why is that? One would think that with so much external guidance, we should have the answers and we should know. But if they're not, if that guidance, if that information, if that wisdom isn't coming from within you, then you are outsourcing the very power that makes you so uniquely you. And that is your soul, your essence, the divinity that exists beyond this physical body and beyond the logical mind. That is something that AI cannot replicate. It's that felt sense. It's that intuitive sense, that sixth sense that is beyond logic, that's beyond reason, that's beyond analytical rationale. You know what I'm talking about. If you are here having this experience, you are a soul having a human experience, you know absolutely what I'm talking about. We're in a time where it has become more important than ever to strengthen that connection, to lean into that connection, because that is what's going to set you apart as a human, as a leader, as a business owner, as a friend, as a lover, as a parent, is the uniqueness of you being a sentient being, being an intuitive, highly intuitive being. Even if you feel like you're not intuitive, you absolutely are. You probably just haven't tapped into the infinite resource of your power and your potential that exists purely because you are here, purely because you are a limitless soul. So don't ever forget that. And I feel like at the moment we can get really anchored into our humanness and into the habit of outsourcing guidance. And that can have a feeling of separating ourselves, taking us further away from ourselves, from our truth, from our innate wisdom. What's really unique, like I will even listen to some podcasts that feel like they are artificially generated, that feel like, someone's reading off ChatGTP. Please don't forget that it is not the words that you speak, but it's the resonance that comes through your energy. You are energy first. You are vast energy, and it's your energy that's felt. It's your transmission that's felt, the way that you allow the light, the guidance, the wisdom beyond intellect to move through you and share that. That is what magnetizes people towards you, not the words you say, but who you be. That is what magnetizes abundance, wealth, experience, people, circumstances towards you, is the energy that you occupy. And we can sense, when someone is grounded, when they're in their power, when they're in their magnetism, versus someone who is being used to outsourcing their wisdom, their power, their intellect to something outside of themselves. And I've spoken about this before, how we saw a lot of this during COVID, a lot of this reliance on an external authority to dictate how we should feel, how we should act. No one can ever have that much power over you. You are a sovereign being. And I believe the way that we are going to navigate these next couple of years, or these next 10, 20 years of massive global awakening, is truly by aligning with our soul, is truly by remembering who we are inherently and utilizing that power to co-create, using that power to magnetize experiences. Because what we can create within us, we create externally, right? What happens in the microcosm occurs then in the macro. Life is simply a mirror, a reflection of what we are tuning into, what we are activating with our own internal landscape. This is why all of this is an inside job. I put a post up on Instagram yesterday, and I shared a feather, a beautiful red-tailed black cockatoo feather that my husband found. He's a spiritual man, beautiful spiritual man, and he does long trail runs in the national park and so forth. And he has an affinity with black cockatoos. They're a deeply spiritual bird. They're quite rare. And we live in Australia, and in the region where we are on the east coast of Australia, we do see them from time to time. And so he just has a connection with these black cockatoos. And so he's been asking for signs in the form of a red, specifically a red-tailed black cockatoo feather to appear on his running track while he's running. And he's been doing this for a while. He's been asking for that sign that just felt like, for him, the signs that we experience, that we get from the spirit realm, are those reminders that, like, we're on the right track, that you're where you're meant to be. Keep going. And so at some point recently, he let it go. Right? He started to let go of the attachment to seeing this feather, and he surrendered it, like the power of surrendering attachment to an outcome. Lo and behold, yesterday when he was on his run, he came across on his trail run a red-tailed black cockatoo feather. and he brought it home, and he was elated because it really meant something from him. It meant so much. It was this beautiful confirmation from the spirit world. And it was only yesterday that I was listening to the beautiful Dr. Tara Schwartz, who's actually written a book called The Signs. She's a neuroscientist, and she was talking about signs that she's been experiencing, particularly since her husband passed, and we see him being in the spirit realm, and the way that our loved ones and our ancestors can communicate to us through the different signs. And she goes into great detail around that. She happened to mention in this interview about the spiritual significance of the black cockatoo in Australia. This all happened on the one day. It's easy to forget the way that life is communicating with us, that spirit, that the vaster realm is communicating with us. And maybe it's communicating to you through the literal signs, through the symbols, through angel numbers. You know, we often see them on number plates, or when you look at the time. Like, that's just getting started. That's just warming you up for what is actually possible when you deepen your communication with the spirit realm. And what I want to remind you of is that we all have this. If you think you're not spiritual, I always laugh when people say to me, "Are you spiritual?" And it's like, yeah, but we all are. We all are. We are all spiritual beings. We can't not be. It's just that we forget. We forget. We forget what's possible. And like our sixth sense, our intuitive senses, or our clairs, so whether you are clairvoyant and you see the signs, or whether you're clairaudient and you hear the whispers of your soul or your guidance team or your angels, or whether you are clairsentient and you've just got more of that felt sense. Some people are highly, highly developed in that clair, or claircognient. A lot of males are really developed in their cognience. It's just that gut knowing. We all have this. You would have at least one of those senses that you are more naturally attuned to. And often people know what that is when you ask them. I think, oh yeah, I definitely have more of that felt sense, or I always see the signs. So that's one way that spirit is communicating to you. What I want to mention here is really important is you need to ask. So in the ethereal realm, and when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about our ancestors, our past loved ones. We can go higher up into ascended masters. We can even have this conversation, like I have conversations with God, or with the creator, with source, with love. Like, we're in partnership with that energy. We are that energy. It's not separate from us. And so what's really important here, because we are bound in this three-dimensional human existence, we are bound by the laws of free will, which means that the spirit realm can't interfere. It can't, there's certain circumstances it's a bit nuanced where they can interfere, but in general they can't. We need to ask, we need to be open and consciously ask to be shown, ask for that guidance. This is a resource that we can tap into that is highly underutilized. And it's time, my friends. And I get really excited about this, about the potential, about, this is something that I have always tapped into, is my guidance system, and I've acted on that guidance. But unless we're using it, we can kind of lose it, because it is like a muscle. And so it's really important that you start to develop that relationship, that you start to ask for the signs, that you start to open your eyes and look for it. How do we know? If you think it's a sign, it's a sign. So here's an invitation for you, my friends. Ask. Do a little practice like my husband did, where he asked. He asked specifically for a red-tailed black cockatoo feather. I want you to ask specifically for something. It might be a purple crystal. It might be a blue dolphin. It might be a golden star. It might be an infinity symbol. Right? Have the courage to be audacious and ask for the sign that you want to see. And then once we start to see it, It's like spirit goes, okay, great. I've got your attention. Here's more. I'm going to give you more. And that might be song lyrics that you hear. That might be a passage in a book that you read and you just know. That might be a conversation that you have with someone and they say the words that you know that you need to hear. That might be you're starting to develop and come into attunement with the voice in your head that's that loving, quiet, gentle whisper of your soul, reminding you you're where you're meant to be, you're on track, everything's working out for you. Or it might be go here, talk to that person, send that email, start the podcast, like whatever it is. And what I want to remind you of is when we feel that guidance, when we sense that guidance and there's an impulse to act on it, to take the inspired action. Sometimes we'll say, like, I want more of a sign. Or when you take that action, when you take that half step, spirit can then take that next step. Spirit can then show you the next puzzle piece. But we need to be in collaboration. We need to play our role in on this journey. So if we're sitting back and we're waiting, I want another sign and I want another sign, or I need to know, or I'm expecting that I'm not going to have doubts, because it can feel scary initially to act on your intuition because we haven't utilized that in a compass. And so it can feel unfamiliar when we're used to going with logic and reason. And this helps us so much. I want to tie this back to manifestation because this helps us so much on our manifestation journey. We need to learn to trust in the unseen because our manifestations, what we're calling in, is germinating, it is forming in the invisible. And in our human senses, we can only see, we can only pick up on in our 5 human senses less than 1% of reality. So 99.9999% of reality is in the unseen. We can only access that through the clairs, through that sixth sense, through our intuitive knowing. And I think that we've become so anchored in our human emotions and aligned with our ego patterning that we get really impatient. And this is why we don't make moves, because we're looking for the evidence. We're looking for things to be a certain way before we'll take the step. We're looking for the money in the bank account before we'll book the holiday. We're looking for the pay increase before we start to take care of ourselves in the way that we're feeling we need to. We're looking for the relationship before we can start to feel love for ourselves. Like all of these things, we have it backwards. It doesn't work like that. We need to do our part. We need to show the spirit realm that we're working with, show the divine, I trust you so much that I'm going to make this move. And I know that the net will appear. I trust so much in the unseen. We have to trust in the unseen more than we trust in our doubts, more than we lean into our fears. But we are so used to prioritizing doubt and fear and resistance and think that that's our navigation tool. That is not our navigation tool. In fact, quite the contrary, that will often steer us off track. So I want to try and wrap this up. If you are someone who's waiting, play around with this. Ask for the signs. Start to communicate with your guidance system. Ask to be shown. And then pay attention. Pay attention to what shows up when you see the sign. Say thank you. So I am really excited because I am now opening up space to take a group of women on this journey over a 6 live group coaching program that is called Amplify Your Soul's Voice. So this is a guided journey where I will be alongside you, helping you to reconnect with your inner wisdom, helping you to trust in yourself, in your soul's guidance, and to know how to determine that guidance, that voice, the voice of your soul over the voice of your ego, which I think is really important. So together in this group, we're going to quiet the noise of the world. And there's going to be different ways that we're going to do that. Release the doubt and overthinking and start to tune into the frequency of your soul so that you can make decisions, you can create and lead from that guidance. This is not about adding in more tools and strategies necessarily. It's really about coming home to the voice that is already here, that's already alive within you. We just need to remember how to utilize that, how to let that voice become so much stronger than all of the external noise. I'm going to guide you every step of the way. And right now, before I have the fancy sales page, if you can intuitively feel that this is speaking to you. We're going to start in November, at the beginning of November. And we're going to journey together over 6 weeks. There'll be a live 90-minute call every week, plus practices that you are going to be invited to go on to embody each week. That's going to support you to make this shift. So if you're someone that hears this and it's just like, I just know, I don't need to know anymore. I know that this is for me. You can click on the link in the show notes because you're going to have the opportunity to get this at almost like a third of the price. This is going to be open for about a week perhaps until I launch the full sales page, and then the price is going to go up. So if it's speaking to you and you want to take the opportunity to join at a significantly discounted rate and be a part of this, it's called Amplify Your Soul's Voice, then you can click on the link in the show notes and join us inside this powerful portal that's going to support you to close out 2025 and move into 2026 feeling more connected to your soul truth than you ever have before, more in attunement with your own guidance system so that you know the moves to make, so that you know when you're going back into your old conditioning, when you know how to deeply, deeply trust in what you can't see yet. I would love to hold that space for you. You can find all the details in the show notes. I hope this speaks to you. Let it be a reminder to ask, to open your eyes, to trust in the way that Spirit's communicating to you and start to make moves in attunement with that. It's going to serve you so much. Thank you so much for listening. Feel free to review, like, share, all of the things, follow along to the podcast. It all really helps, and I so much appreciate it. Have the most beautiful day.